Okay guys, a couple things I wanted to point out on the Zeus as I'm building this up here. I got the diffs done and I started to put the this is the front diff cover together, and a couple interesting things. They have this kind of bearing separator, and then you put that into the plastic housing and it's extremely tight. So what I had to do to get this one in is I had to put the bearing in on one side and leave it loose on this side, put it halfway in, then on this end before you put the drive cup in, push the bearing the rest of the way in, and then push it all the way in over here. So a little bit different design, and then they use these screws to kind of keep it down, which they probably don't need because it's extremely tight. This diff cup itself is huge. I really like that. This is the one hinge pin carrier that's going to be plastic. This one will go here. That one's aluminum. These diffs are really smooth. Good cup size, which is a little bit bigger than a Techno diff cup. I think it's about the same size as an Arma. So I went with the stock fluids 3000. This is CPS, but from what I'm hearing, that's pretty comparable to CST. So this is like 3000K or 3K, and then you have 7K for the front, and then I put 100K in the center just because that's what I always do for my bashers. I couldn't imagine putting 7K in there, so I put 100K. One other thing about the manual that was interesting is you can see, hopefully you can see, a normal like Techno diff, you would put, you have your bearing, you have your cup, and then you would have a shim that goes here, and then you would have your O-ring, and then you would have your pin to retain everything. There's no shim. I tried to use a Techno shim. It's too big. I know Armas come that way stock, but then most of the guys use Mugen shims to put behind this pin so that the pin isn't rubbing on the O-ring. So I couldn't find a shim that works, so I'm trying it this way. Hopefully I won't run into issues. The other interesting design is you can see this is a plastic spur, but it connects over the cup onto here, which is an interesting design because I could take these bolts out, my diff is still intact, and then I could change the spur. So that was an interesting design. I kind of like that, actually. I just wish it was aluminum. This is a 47 tooth spur. It also came with a 46 and a 45. I just put the 47 in because I can easily change it. So that's where I'm at so far. Just wanted to give a quick update. Okay guys, couple more things I wanted to point out as I'm putting more of this Zeus together. I got a lot more of the front together now. My buddy Steven over at Texas Tech Custom RCs mentioned that this manual wasn't the best to follow, so now I know some of what he's talking about. So bag D, front, you put your diffs together. Rear, you put the housing and the diff together. No mention anything else, but we're clearly putting the front together. So that threw me for a little bit of a loop, and this part threw me for a little bit more of a loop. This block is not the block I have. There's no recess here, and also I've seen some of the bigger channels online. They have a block that theirs is this part is machined, and it's a little bit darker color black, and I think that's the block that they have, because mine, you can see the pills go in on this way, and then you put the hinge pins in and then you thread it in a little bit. Well, mine, it's hard to see, it's the opposite. Like, these can actually come out. They're retained at the end when you put, if I can find it, when you put the little front bumper on. That's what actually holds the front pills together in my version, right here. So you can kind of see that would stop those from coming out when you put that on. So that's way different, and it threw me for a little bit of a loop. Other things to point out these diff cases are open. I'm not sure how I feel about that, because when you put it on the chassis, inevitably, unless there's like a rubber seal around here, dirt does get in there. I know that because my arm is that way, and dirt does come up in there. So I wasn't expecting open style diffs like that on a kit, but you know, that's how it is. And then so I got some of the more of the front together, I got the sway bar together, and then I got the top plate. This is carbon fiber. It's pretty nice. This part is plastic. This is the upper arm hinge pin holder. There is an aluminum option. I think it would be nicer, but I didn't opt for that at this point. So anyway. Alright guys, I'm getting pretty far along in this build now. As you guys can see, it's pretty much together. I put my 4S graphene battery in there to make sure it would fit, and it does. And there's room by the drive shaft for it. I'm gonna try to fit a Hobbywing XR8 and 2252 motor in here. We'll see if I can, because it's going to be extremely tight. I've seen one guy do it online, so we'll see. Otherwise, I'm going to have to go back to the Mamba Monster, which is what I was going to originally put in here, but I put that in my Sentin to run 2S. I did find out this could run with 2S, but the Sentin's going to be in a variety of different environments, so I kind of wanted to go with the Mamba Monster on that one. So let's see what I kind of talk about. The arms went together and front suspension. It feels pretty nice. It's got enough droop and enough travel. Same with the rear, so that's going to be good. The links I thought were pretty beefy. The drive shafts I think are a little thin. I don't know how that's all going to work, especially the center's a little bit thicker, which is good. But the front and rear drive shafts seem a little thin to me compared to some other vehicles, especially the Arma vehicles. I do really like this pivot ball suspension. I always have. Carbon fiber top plate I went with. I got aluminum servo mount. Haven't installed the servo yet. I did the aluminum front and rear braces, which is good. I left the center one, the plastic, and this plastic does seem like it could break. It's not a super tough plastic. It was a little bit pliable, so maybe that's good, maybe that's bad, I don't know. So anyway, I like the wing, nice and tall. The shock towers are aluminum, they're very nice. So all in all, the only weird thing I found was this front suspension. See if I can get in close enough. These pills right here are just held on by this bumper. It was weird, but now that it's in there, it seems like it's going to be fine. And yeah, that's where I'm at so far. So I'll build a little more and do another update. Okay guys, I wanted to point a couple things out. So this kit, if you want to put a 74mm motor in here, it's very tight. Probably even tighter than a Techno, because you have to shove this ESC over a little further to deal with that. Because this inverted servo, which is an interesting design, it almost interferes. So I could set it right here and I'll have just enough room to get the wire in, sensor wire in. So I think it's going to work, but it's going to be pretty close. And also I had to cut a pretty big chunk out of the ESC plate to get that motor in there. So I think they want you to put a buggy motor in there, but I'm gonna go this route. Also, this servo horn, I'm using a low profile servo horn, and it's kind of hard to see, but I had to use a almost flat screw to put in from the back side, because this rod end here, it's threaded, so it's not a through hole. If it was a through hole, I guess I'd still be in the same situation, but this ProTech servo horn is threaded, so I guess if this wasn't threaded, you could just put a bolt through and clamp it down, but this came with the ProTech servo, so I really wanted to use it, and I didn't have any of these spare ball ends. This is a stock one. You can see that's a pretty good size standoff, and then you would put it on there and you would have a bunch of room to get everything in there. So Arma makes one that you could use. Otherwise, you just got to make sure that you've got one of these really low profile screws to make it all work. Alright guys, here it is, Sworkz Zeus, all built. Only thing left to do is paint the body. So now that it's put together, I'm pretty happy about it. It's got a cool look to it. These wheels I got from Germany. T-Pro Racing. They're the same wheels that everybody's had, the bigger channels have had, so I'm pretty happy to get them. I do have a front bumper for it. I don't know if I'm going to run it, because I've had issues with the screws pulling out of those T-bone style front bumpers. I also got this awesome skid. I got that from Michael Meyer, so shout out to Mike. He's on the Arma forum. He's on the Techno MT410 forum as well. He makes custom stuff, and he is German, so it's kind of fitting. So I think I went over the electronics already, but I went with Hobbywing XR8. I went with the 4274 censored motor and the ProTech 150T servo, and it's super tight. I think I already mentioned that. So the shocks, I had a little trouble with the shocks. They sent me 4 of the short bodies. As you can see, there's a long body back there, so Sworkz did take care of it and sent me out the other bodies. It took a long time though. A-Main has them for 12 bucks though, so wasn't the end of the world either way. But as far as how they work, I had trouble with the bladders. The bladders are too big, and then when I looked at my manual, let's see if I can find the shock page. Okay, so here it's showing you a honeycomb style design. That's not what I got. I just got like a regular old bladder, and it's much, there's a big bubble here, and this is a lot larger. So it's getting pinched. So I had to take the front apart a couple times, and it still kind of sounds like it's catching a lot of air to me, whereas the rears went together a lot better, and they're a lot quieter. But overall, the suspension's really nice. I mean, it's a race kit, so I expected it to be that nice, and it is. So next time you see it, I will be running it. Should have the body painted up, and we'll see how it goes. It's a really light car. I mean, I'm thinking 10-11 pounds, and with a 74 millimeter motor in there, I think it's going to be fast. I'm just going to start out on 4S, and I've got the stock pinion that came with the kit, which was nice that they put a pinion in there. I think it was a 15 tooth, so that's what we're going to try.